PNM and Prime Minister, Dr. Keith Rowley, Senator the Honorable Robert Luhunt, Minister of Public Utilities and Coordinator for Faizabad, and doing a wonderful job. The man with the largest cheering audience, Councillor Maurice Alexander, Councillor for San Fernando West Faizabad, other cabinet colleagues, officers of the movement, local government representative of the Siparia Corporation. And let me step out of my crease a minute, and I want to pay a special tribute tonight to our outgoing councillor for Palaseco, who has been doing stalwart work for the PNM, Councillor Christine Neptune. She never misses a meeting in Malizeo. And probably the most important people here tonight, our 9 candidates contesting the Siparia Regional Corporation for the banner of the People's National Movement. Party supporters, party well-wishers, members of the media, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. PNM people, how are you feeling? You think we're getting it done? You think we're doing more with less? But I can tell you, under the distinguished leadership of Dr. Keith Christopher Rowley, all that is happening in the interest of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. It's nice to be back home in my hometown of Faizabad. And I say that to get half the cheer that Maurice got. Because while I have telegraphed myself as a Mayaro boy, I was born and raised in Mayaro. I lived most of my life right here in Silal Trace, in Faizabad. But it's election time again, ladies and gentlemen. And election time, my blood has boiled. My heart does beat faster. I have to be careful with that now. Because I love elections. I love fighting elections. And I love winning elections for the People's National. I wish all the candidates in the Siparia Corporation well. And I am quite confident that you all will bring home the victory for this great party. Because you can only know what the joys of victory mean when you have suffered the agony of defeat. And this time, residents of Siparia Corporation, victory will be the PNMs in this corporation in this election. But I'm here tonight to have a serious discourse with the residents of the Southwestern Peninsula and the nation as a whole. I have titled my speech, Life After Petrotrin. Because this is the single most important issue that is affecting the lives of people in this region and this area. But I want to tell you something. Change is nothing new in the oil industry. For those of you who are old enough will know that. Petrotrin had a long history. Petrotrin had 3 streams of companies that ultimately formed Petrotrin. You had the UBOT Shell contingent coming from Point Fortin. When Shell was nationalized to form Trintoc in 1974. Right here in Faizabad, there was TPD, Apex, and KTO that eventually became BP. Remember the days of BP Faizabad? Great football team. And then BP was sold to the government and Trinidad to Suru in 1969. And then there's a stream that came from Trinidad leaseholds in Forest Reserve in Barrackpore that went into form Texaco. Texaco bought it out in 1956. And those three streams merged to form Petrotrin. Change was always been there. All that has happened now, that we have remodeled the industry because of changing circumstances, form a new company called Heritage. And I will show you the wisdom in that decision shortly. Ladies and gentlemen, the oil industry has changed fundamentally internationally. It has even changed in Trinidad to a level beyond recognition. In the early 1970s, when exploration just started off the East Coast, we found 3 major oil fields. I was a young boy growing up in Mayaro. I saw the flares burning out on the beach. It was called Teak, Pui, and Saman. In 1978, this country's average production was 270,000 barrels per day. You know what it is now? 60,000 barrels a day. Here we were in a new basin off the East Coast. We just started to drill, finding so much oil. And everybody say the future is bright. What happened after that has changed this country fundamentally. Because every time we looked for more oil off the East Coast, we found gas. We found so much gas that we didn't know what to do with the gas. And it took the wisdom of people like Professor Julian and others, with even Dr. Williams and Errol Mahabe, and later on Patrick Manning and his cabinet, to transform Trinidad into a gas-based industry with petrochemicals and LNG. But during that era of gas, in a very uncanny way, oil was neglected because the energy industry migrated from the West Coast and land onto the East Coast and the Northeast Coast. And in a sense, this area was left behind because we were not looking for oil. We just started to focus on the East Coast. So what has happened now is that the gas industry has taken over the country. But Petrotrin continues to hold, not Petrotrin, but Heritage now, significant oil assets with significant potential. And that includes what we call the entire southern basin of Trinidad and Tobago, a large part of which is the southwestern peninsula, and the Gulf of Paria, which you normally know as Trinma. A lot has been said about why Petrotrin was closed. We beat that horse until it's dead, you know. Everybody has gone to this population and explained, probably nobody more so than our Prime Minister himself. I explained, Minister of Finance explained, members of the Parliament explained to the country why it was imperative that we had to restructure Petrotrin. Because Petrotrin was a losing entity. Petrotrin had reached a stage where they had lost $15 billion in accumulated losses over 5 years. The best case scenario was a loss of $2 billion per year. Its operating cost was high. Its production was falling. Something had to be done. Because, ladies and gentlemen, at the end of the day, somebody has to pay the bills. You just don't go to the bank every month and expect a check. Somebody has to finance that. And when the company reached a stage where it could have no longer paid its bills and honor its debt commitment, something drastic had to be done. And that was the harsh decision that the Prime Minister and the Cabinet of Trinidad and Tobago was forced to take. I have worked in fact, a significant part of my career in Petrotrin. I know the people who were affected. I lived in this community for 23 years. I empathize what has happened. But what I want to show you in the next 10 to 15 minutes is that the future is still bright for this area. So we formed what is called Trinidad Petroleum Holdings Limited and 4 subsidiaries. Heritage, to focus on exploration and production. Garakara, which is the refining assets. Paria, which is the terminaling and trading facilities which import and exports oil and petroleum products. And Petrotrin, which will hold the legacy interests of paying historical debts, etc., etc. You all know what has happened with the refinery. Patriotic won the bid, and the process is continuing. Paria has done well because there has been a smooth and seamless transition in the fuels market. Not for a single day was there a shortage of gasoline or diesel in this country. Not for a single day was there a shortage of LPG in this country. And not for a single day has there been a shortage of bitumen in this country. So we have done well. But ladies and gentlemen, if I should say so myself, future of the oil sector in Trinidad and Tobago lies squarely on the lap of Heritage Petroleum. As we speak, yesterday, Heritage produced 38,900 barrels a day. And it now starts, because we have ramped up activities. Offshore, which is now called Petrotrin Offshore, which was originally what we used to call Trinma, has taken on a workover rig. Only today, the Minister of Finance approved what is called the Marine Offshore Production Unit, which will immediately bring in to Trinma's production approximately 1,500 to 1,600 barrels of oil. Trinma's production, or Heritage Offshore in production, will increase. Land operations. Let me tell you what is going on here. As we speak, Heritage has 16 workover rigs working. It has 3 swabbing rigs working. It has 1 drilling rig working. And bearing in mind, you should not only see Heritage and or Petrotrin. There are 19 lease operators and farm out owners in this country, most of them local entities that are investing heavily in the oil sector in the Southwest Peninsula. Let me call some names. Hydrocarb, Pfizer Company, Oxley Poland, right there on the stretch they go into Crest Camp. Lease Operators Limited, East Coast Drilling, Muncie Oil, Oil Belt, TN Ramnat, Petroleum Contracting Services Limited, Trinidad Wireline Limited, Krishna Prasad and Associates Limited, API Petroleum Company Limited, Jasmine Oil and Gas. We have some foreign companies, Range Resources, Touchstone Exploration, Trinity Exploration, A&V Drilling, and the list goes on and on. 19 companies. Right now, these 19 companies are running 16 workover rigs and 2 drilling rigs. So you mustn't only be checking Petrotrin. So as we speak, the cumulative total is something like 32 workover rigs, 3 drilling rigs, and 12 swabbing rigs. And if you take and you average 10 to 15 workers per shift on a rig, that's 400 to 500 workers. 400 to 500 skilled workers. 400 to 500 fairly well-paid workers. So you cannot see it in the tunnel vision of a Petrotrin or a Heritage. It is the industry, because the industry has to grow. So that is the new dynamic of the energy sector. That is the new dynamic of the oil sector. To show you how profitable this exploration and production business can become. In the first 3 quarters of Heritage's existence, where their production wasn't even as high as 38,900 barrels yesterday, it generated 3.287 billion TT dollars in revenue and made a net profit of $543 million. That is after tax and after debt servicing. And let me just make a point to the national community. The refinancing of Petrotrin's debt and the refinancing of the bond will be paid and repaid almost entirely from the cash flow of Heritage. So Heritage has been the savior of Trinidad and Tobago. What has helped also is that the crude that Heritage produces and the crude that is produced on the West Coast, Gulf of Paria, and on land in Trinidad is now fetching a fairly high price on the international market. For years, because the crude was going through the refinery, we undervalued the crude. We used to transfer crude to the refinery at what you call WTI, which is West Texas Intermediate, minus $6. You know what it is trading on in the international market? The same crude? WTI plus $5. That is $10 difference, US per barrel. And all the naysayers, David Abdullah, when we formed Heritage, said you cannot sell that crude. Caroline Sipasad Bechan, a former Minister of Energy and head of the corps, according to Pandey, say you can't sell the crude. We are selling the crude and making money from the crude at a price that is premium on the international market. Heritage is doing well. When we had to restructure Petrotrin was staggered with high debt, high operating costs, and decrease in production. There's something called lifting costs, which is the cost to lift a barrel of oil, to bring it to surface. The lifting cost in Trinmar was $34 a barrel. The lifting cost on land was $36 a barrel. Ladies and gentlemen, I want the population to know. You know what is the direct lifting cost for oil in Trinmar today? Or what is now called Heritage Offshore? $15 a barrel. The direct lifting cost for oil on land is now $12 a barrel. So if you selling that crude at $50 a barrel, obviously you have to pay taxes, you have to pay your corporate overheads, and you have to service your loan. So your profit still wouldn't be big, but you are still positioned as a state entity and as a company to service your debt. 1 year ago, to be in this position was never seen. 1 year ago, the Minister of Finance and the Prime Minister, well, I can't say the Prime Minister was scratching his hair, but he was scratching his head to find out how will we repay the debt. The government was forced to say, we may have a government guarantee. And today, the bonds and the loans have been successfully renegotiated, and its repayment is being generated from the cash flow of Heritage. And Heritage now starts. and I will continue to show what is the position there. During the restructuring, we promised employment. There is employment now with the activity, but we promised direct employment with the Heritage Company. We told the nation that we will be employing high-skilled professionals and or artisans and technicians in the tune of 850 employees. As we speak, we are about 350, and we are accelerating and ramping up. However, Heritage has 500 contract workers as we speak. So the total employ of Heritage is approximately 750. It will go to around 800, and ultimately, within probably 6 months or a year, 800 will be directly employed by Heritage. On Monday, I went down to Santa Flora to launch Heritage's new corporate social responsibility policy. Because I know we were lacking in that. Because these communities around here, Faizabad, Santa Flora, Palo Seco, Guapo, Point Fortin, the oil companies just virtually mine you. Anything you want just to get. You're getting water, you're getting electricity, you're getting sponsorship, you're getting gong, you're getting clubs. That was the life. It was no longer sustainable. And when we had to perform the surgery on Petrotrin, we knew that had to be stopped. But it was only stopped during a transition. It comes like a cancer. You have your surgical team, and now what we have in place is your post-surgical team. So we are bringing back the corporate social responsibility component of Heritage. Because at the end of the day, ladies and gentlemen, you cannot run a company entrenched into communities like these and be totally detached from the community. You have to engage civil society. You have to engage community groups. You have to help the youths. You have to help the young people. You have to help in education. You have to help in community activities. And you have to be part and parcel of the community. Corporate social responsibility is now a big thing. And in that regard, we launched the program. Heritage has about 4 or 5 brilliant new schemes, largely schemes not on handouts, but an empowerment, training, of education, of mentoring the young people. Because, ladies and gentlemen, no matter what spin we put on it, the future of this country lies in the hands of the next generation. And that is who we have to support. But talk them as much as you want. But civilization has only progressed because each generation has superseded the accomplishments of the previous generation. That's a fact. We have done better than our parents. And I'm sure that our children will be doing better than us. That's how society is progressing. So we are supporting the youth. We're supporting more sustainable activity. There's a program in Mayaro called MyPed. It was funded by Amoco. 20 years ago, under the leadership of Mr. Ken Gordon, MyPed invested through Amoco at the time, $7 million to give small and micro loans to the community of Mayaro. Watermelon farmers, fishermen to buy boat engine, small caterers in Guayguayari. Today, that portfolio is now $87 million. And the repayment percentage of the loan is 87%. These are the type of activities we will be looking forward to. So the future is bright. The future is bright because there's still significant oil potential in Trinidad. The future is bright because Petrotrin and our heritage has not even started to use the new technology of exploration and production in their assets. There's something called OBN, offshore seismic, ocean bottom seismic cables. We are going to have a joint venture with Shell to run that seismic program in Trinidad, and I am certain as a geologist that it will identify significant new potential. And most importantly, as I close, we will be recruiting the best and brightest young talent from Trinidad and Tobago, and in particular this community, to drive this process. Because at the end of the day, we have to create a future for our children. We have to pass the baton to them and tell them, go in good speed. The country is in your hands. Heritage is in your hands. And I am saying, I have full confidence that the young people will take us to the place where we ought to be as a nation. So ladies and gentlemen, in closing, it's election time. On the 2nd of December, come out in your large numbers. Vote for the People's National Movement and make sure that we win as many corporations as is possible in Trinidad. I thank you.
We're ready. Yeah, we're ready.